What's good? I'm Woog, and in this series, we're going to hit the individual categories, predict winners, pick our winners, while discussing the Grammys, its history, and its politics, as we near the date of the ceremony. Best Alternative Album is one of my favorite categories. It's also pretty ambiguous. When this award category was created in '91, its original intent was to honor the non-mainstream rock albums that were somehow non-traditional and mostly popular to a younger audience, getting play on college radio. This was obviously a product of the MTV generation and the emergence of artists like REM and Sinead O'Connor. In 2018, I don't know what the hell this category is supposed to mean or how its nominees are different from the Best Rock Album category. What I like about it is that it's wide-ranging, so you could have Radiohead competing with Alabama Shakes or Tame Impala, Beck, or the Black Keys. My question is whether the Black Keys, or in the case of 2018, Arcade Fire, could be considered non-mainstream when their record labels are Warner Brothers and Columbia, respectively. These bands are among the most famous in rock today, and whether or not they get a lot of play on today's pop stations, they, along with Radiohead and last year's winner of the award, David Bowie, are already music legends, and their latest albums all hit #1 on the charts. So if that's the alternative, then what the hell is mainstream rock? Hard rock, accepted as pop, launching megastar bands like Green Day, the White Stripes, and even Good Charlotte, that was a long time ago. So with today's nominees, you get a lot of indie rock, indie soul, indie folk, indie pop, dream pop, shoegaze, chillwave, all of that. Want to know something crazy though? 7 different albums by Bjork have been nominated for this award, and out of those 7, 0 wins. Gotta give Bjork some love though. For 7 albums to be nominated shows incredible consistency and enormous respect from her peers. But damn, can they give her at least one? She has managed to make the most of the invites though, killing the red carpet with those outrageous outfits. And that's pre-Lady Gaga. Recent winners of this award include Alabama Shakes, St. Vincent, Vampire Weekend, Gautier, Bon Iver, the Black Keys, Phoenix, and most recently, David Bowie, whose final album, you could argue, was experimental enough for the late legendary icon to qualify. The White Stripes and Radiohead have won this award 3 times, and Coldplay's won twice. Let's get into it. First nominee is Everything Now by the Arcade Fire, who have gone from being indie to major over their last 3 albums, starting with The Suburbs, the band's 3rd album, which pulled off the Grammy upset, winning Album of the Year in 2011, beating out artists like Eminem, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, Lady Antebellum. I mean, whoa. One interesting note about that is that although they won Album of the Year that year, in the major category, that same album lost in the Best Alternative Album category. Isn't that kind of weird? You win Best Album of any category, but lose in your category. I don't know how that works, but moving on. So this is their 2nd album since that, and by most critics' accounts, it's probably the worst of their 5 albums. That or the previous album, Reflector. And that's not a slight, being that each of their first 3 albums are considered indie rock classics, especially their debut, Funeral. But often, as popularity increases, quality can decrease, and this one just seemed a little weird to me, like the band was overthinking themselves, forcefully making songs that tried to sound different, and then going straight middle of the road on other songs. They were more direct in their messaging as well, almost to the point of preachy. Pink Floyd also became increasingly wordy over the years, like On the Wall, late in the band's career. This isn't to say that Everything Now is a bad album, it just didn't feel as naturally good to me, and according to reviews, to most critics. I don't know what the Recording Academy saw in this album to want to nominate it, especially since it was widely slammed, by their fans as well. So the Recording Academy, which is comprised of some major producers, engineers, and artists, basically said, we don't care what these critics and fans think, this is a fantastic album. To me, it's a lazy pick. Great band, bad nomination. Humanz, the 5th album by Gorillaz. It's really their 4th, but they quietly sandwiched a digital release between Plastic Beach, their 3rd album, and this latest one, Humanz. For those that don't know, Gorillaz is basically the dude from the British band Blur, Damon Albarn, who around the year of 2000 teamed up with the renowned British comic book artist Jamie Hewlett, the co-creator of Tank Girl. So they start a virtual band with Hewlett handling the visuals of a band of animated members, with the music created and performed by the real people, including Damon Albarn. So this unique construct gives Albarn free reign to do whatever the hell he wants musically, to feature whomever. It allows his band to be boundless. They frequently featured De La Soul and Del the Funky Homo Sapien of Hieroglyphics, and they've had a bunch of other guest performers with corresponding animated characters like Mos Def, Little Dragon, Danger Mouse. Even Ike Turner played on piano on one of their early songs. Then some songs only feature Albarn and his regular Gorillaz bandmates. Now this type of a gimmick only works if the musicians and artists involved are awesome, right? Well, they've been around for a long time now, and they've been pretty inventive on each album. Clint Eastwood, their breakout single featuring Del, that was 16 years ago. Damon Albarn is 49 now. He had a career before the Gorillaz. To remain on the fresh, cutting edge of music for this long and appeal to a multitude of generations isn't easy. Ask any of the greats. Ask Dr. Dre, Led Zeppelin, Eminem, Kanye, McCartney. Gorillaz is a little like Outkast in the way they reinvent their sound with every album. Now, Humanz isn't Gorillaz' best album. It's probably not their second best album, but it's good. It more closely resembles the current mainstream sound than I think their prior albums did. That opening track though, with Vince Staples, the sky's falling baby, drop that ass for a crash. The sky's falling baby, drop that ass for a crash. They picked the perfect MC for that feature. American Dream by LCD Soundsystem is the most critically acclaimed album of the nominees. They've been around since 2002, dropped their first album in 2005. They disbanded in 2011 just after the third album. Then in the several months that followed, you start seeing little articles here and there about the members DJing shows. There was always a lot of fan interest in them rejoining. Lead singer James Murphy became a thing. They kept their name floating around on Pitchfork.com. They had all the cred. Then they hinted at a comeback. Then they played some private shows. Then they dropped this album, American Dream. And yeah, the critics blessed this album as one of the best of the year. It's kind of like thoughtful dance music. I'm pretty surprised that they were nominated actually. This ain't Calvin Harris. I'm a little tempted to predict them as the winner, but they're almost too indie hip to win. It'll be kind of a minor upset, not as big as the Arcade Fire upset that I mentioned earlier, but an upset nonetheless. But I'd be impressed and I wouldn't protest the call. Pure Comedy by Father John Misty. He's 3 for 3 on solo albums under that Father John Misty name. Once upon a time though, he was little known Jay Tillman, releasing 8 albums between 2003 and 2010. He had a short stint as drummer and backup vocalist in Fleet Foxes, the popular indie folk Seattle band led by Robin Pecknold. And after touring with the Foxes and playing on their second album, Helplessness Blues, he left and adopted the Father John Misty moniker. And his debut album, Fear Fun, was only the beginning of this 3-album run, going from critically praised to critically adored. His cynical persona and hilarious use of social media have made him somewhat of an indie demigod. The dude's a trip, and he's one of the best singer-songwriters in music today. This new album, Pure Comedy, is a dive into the human condition, the world and the society that we live in. I challenge anyone to listen to that album and tell me that you don't think or feel anything. I'd call you a damn lie. A homie of mine, Mr. John Adams, said the following about Pure Comedy. It's a beautiful listen at times, but most of the time, it's rather uncomfortable. A super savvy dose of realism delivered over remarkable arrangements delivered in its trademark cynical and satirical nature. Misty has a brilliant take on what we must look like from a bird's eye view, or if an alien landed on our planet and was taking an assessment of how we humans function, how we rear our young, how we function as a society and interact with each other, what we do when we're alone and what we do when we're together. He covers it all, from birth to death, to politics, to love, to entertainment, to religion, to the insignificance of human existence on a cosmic scale, and how ridiculous even he is for thinking what he has to say matters or should be listened to. Yeah, me and the homies, we talk a lot of music. Sleep Well Beast by The National was also critically acclaimed, as are most of their albums. But from a fan standpoint, I don't think that this album is as good as any of their past 3 albums. Trouble Will Find Me, High Violet, or Boxer. The choruses sound like they're striving for bigger hits, with repeated phrases and just a lot of the trends in poppier music that I think sound more contrived. Not to say that this album is contrived, it's just something that happens when bands start taking that next step into stardom. See Arcade Fire. Lead singer Matt Berninger's baritone voice sounds as crystal clear as ever, but that thing that he does where he goes into the higher ranges, which sounds awesome and varies their songs' textures, doesn't appear as much on this album as it has in the past. It really helps ignite a lot of their good songs. This isn't a bad album, I'm just not in love with it. But like many indies and alt rocks that have been at it for a while, the one that finally earns the Grammy nomination is also the one that has the heaviest pop leanings. Too bad. Who do I want to win versus who do I think will win? I think that Father John Misty dropped the best album out of the nominees, but his music doesn't have as broad an audience as Gorillaz or Arcade Fire. I'd really like his pure comedy album to win this, but he's probably the least likely to actually pull it off. Although the National's notoriety has grown in recent years and the Gorillaz have a stellar track record, I think that this one comes down to Arcade Fire and LCD Soundsystem. Honestly, Arcade Fire's album just isn't that good. It would be such a disservice to the awesome artists and bands out there if the Grammys give this one to them. So I'll go out on a limb and say that this one belongs to LCD Soundsystem. There was just so much hype coming into this release after that hiatus, and the way that critics have almost unanimously fawned over American Dream, I think that it's created the perfect storm for them to win this one over the others. This would also score the Grammys some extra cool points for rolling with the less major but super trendy group. I'm still holding out hope that Father John Misty pulls off the miracle. My mind's telling me Arcade Fire, but my body's telling me LCD Soundsystem's American Dream. Feel free to like or comment the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.